Okay, so I trained in sculpture uh, a, a long time ago, and yeah, obviously I've been in Houbart since I was 18. So every step of the way, I've done testing about everything, and but I don't think um, I was never given a profession as to be what the thing that I should do. It's never been, sort of clear cut. But I did receive to do sculpture,
Mm.
and then after that, someone did receive something that felt a bit like theatre design. So then I did postgraduate theatre design, and but yeah, I think I've got a memory of someone receiving something about weaving, and in a sense, I think in a sense that's a bit what I've done in my life. I've woven lots of different elements together. Yeah, so because I've done a lot of different things, and so I've sort of, I'm not a master of anything. I've just done a lot of different things, and the theatre design's very much like that anyway, because you've got to. I mean, I was involved in making the sets. I was involved in making the costumes, making all the models. You know, so that involved lots of practical tasks. So yeah, I think I'm quite practical, and the whole thing of making things. And during my sculpture degree, I mean, I worked with clay a lot, but I did installations, which so sort of turned a whole room into something experiential. So you walked into the room and you were in a sort of, it was a bit like a set, and it involved taking photos, which was a bit like a cartoon strip telling a story. So I mean, I'm always been very influenced by my dad, who was a writer and an actor. So so that has always been a big influence on me. And he was a teacher as well. So but then I did desktop, but I spent about 6 years being a theatre designer. And it's a very difficult thing to earn your living at, but I did it for about 6 years. But then I did desktop publishing. So, and then I got a sort of salary for the first time. And I thought, gosh, I've done all this work in theatre design. I've never had a salary. So, so that was my time when I maybe earned the most money, and I sort of learned the skill in about a few weeks, desktop publishing. So anyway, from that, when I had kids, then I worked in schools, because that's what goes with having kids. So and I was really lucky to get this job as a technician in a school where art was, they had a lot of money for art because it was going to be their specialist subject. And because of my experience with clay, I was allowed to be the sort of ceramic technician. And I quickly learned how to load a kiln, how to mix up glazes, and how to run a sort of ceramic department. So, and I was the technician for the evening class. So that happened about over 15 years ago. And so for over 15 years, I've been doing every evening, once a week, every evening, I've been present in a pottery evening class. So I've learned a lot about pottery. But then about 6 years ago, I changed from being a technician, which can be quite boring. It's just about sort of shifting stuff around, to being a learning support assistant, which is a great job because you get to go to all these different lessons at a secondary school, and you get to see how teachers work. And you know, it was a sort of fun job. And I tried lots of different things, and I sort of threw myself into that job because it was a really good department. They sort of wanted you to be very innovative, and I started resilience classes with small groups of boys, and I had a lunchtime clay club, and I did a storytelling sort of initiative. So I felt I was really doing everything. And I did lots of emotional well-being as well, which was a bit like art therapy. But then they had this system where they wanted us to, we had to apply to be sort of head LSAs. And I thought I had a good chance of getting it. You know, I'd been there for quite a while then. And I was devastated when I didn't get the job as of a lead LSA, because I thought that I'd put everything into this job. And that really sort of threw me. And I thought, maybe I just don't fit here. I just don't fit. I'm not really when I give everything here, I don't get recognized. And so that made me think, like, what am I going to do? You know, I want a proper career. Work's always been really important to me. I want a proper career. I don't just want to be an assistant all the time. And so I thought, right, well, what I could do, because the lead LSA would have been for the emotional well-being thing, the thing that I didn't get. If I'd done a counselling course, then I would have and become like a counsellor. Yeah, maybe I could be a school counsellor. So it was like, and I was really researching all these counselling courses, and I thought, yes, it's quite a big investment. This is what I'm going to do. But I'd sort of received, no, this isn't, you know, hold back, don't do it. Because it would have been, I don't know, 4 years of training. And so I thought, well, what else am I going to do if I'm not going to do that? And at that time, this pottery class, the lady who taught it, who was the teacher, she left. And I sort of just inherited the class. So again, this was something that I thought, I can't ever earn a proper salary being a pottery teacher. There's just not that many evening classes, and I'm not a qualified teacher. So how's that going to give me a career? But I thought, this evening class has got about 40 people on the waiting list. I mean, since the Pottery Throwdown, pottery has just become really popular. And just from one program put on the TV, or maybe it's the whole thing about craft, everyone wants to do craft, it's suddenly become really popular. And so I was forever emailing people back saying, no, you're not going to get into this class. You're never going to get into this class. No one leaves this class. We've got 15 people, and one person leaves in 3 years. You know, everyone loves it. No one's going to leave. You're never going to get do pottery. So I thought, this is a real need, and this is a job that basically is quite enjoyable.
Maybe that's saying something about your teaching, Lucy.
Say it again.
Maybe that's saying something about your teaching.
Maybe.
You know, so maybe make more classes.
Well, exactly. That's what I came to. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do is start another pottery class. And I could have a shed at the bottom of my garden. I researched sheds, and I thought, God, that's really expensive. So I thought, I know I've got a big house. I'll change my dining room into a classroom and invite people. They was their sign up for a Watford Grammar School for Girls evening class, and then I'll say to them, okay, you can come though to my own pottery class if you want to. So I only fitted about 5 people. So I changed my dining room into a pottery classroom. And I bought a kiln. Buying the kiln, I think, was which you obviously can't do pottery unless you've got a kiln. I already had a wheel, but you can't do pottery unless you've got a kiln. So a kiln is quite a really difficult thing to sort of install. It costs about £1,000 to have it installed because of the electricity. So that was a big investment, but I was really lucky. I got my kiln for only £400 off Gumtree. And when I went to pick it up with my elderly cousin, it belonged to someone who's got Alzheimer's, and they'd sent him off on his memory walk, and they said, if you want any of his other stuff, please take it. We just need to get rid of everything. And there was, in this sort of room in this house, was another potter's wheel, buckets and buckets of glaze, bottles and bottles of underglaze, plaster molds, everything that you would need for a pottery studio. So we just shifted it into the back of this van, and it was just like, immediately I looked professional because I had all this equipment. So that was, and I did receive that this was a gift. It definitely was a gift. It was worth lots of money, and it was fantastic having all of that to start off with. I had to build extra sheds to put it all into, but yeah. And so I set myself up as I had just had a Facebook page then. I didn't have a website. And I had 5 people in my dining room. I had a head teacher, I had an Ofsted inspector in my first group. I had, all these really quite important people. Yeah, there's one bit of a surreal evening because I had the thing in that dining room that I couldn't really remove was a massive fridge. So I put a curtain over it. But one evening when the head teacher was sitting on the wheel and she had mud, she had sort of red clay all over her. And then my lodger walked through the door and went and got a pint of milk out of the fridge. And I just thought, oh no, you've just destroyed my illusion. It really didn't, I was very annoyed at this point. But anyway, I managed to keep it going and everyone loved it. I sort of said, oh, look, there's a place at Watford Girls. And they said, no, Lucy, we want to stay with you. So they loved my class. I managed to start an evening class, 2-day classes. And all of this I was doing while I was cutting down my hours as a learning support assistant, but I kept doing that as well. And then I got my cabin. So my cabin made me feel a lot more professional. So it's 21 square foot is my cabin. And it's 21 square meters, so 5.5 meters by 4.5 meters. So I'll just show you. I'll see if I can. What I'll do is just have a look at my the pottery. So
have you got any of the slab pots that you were telling me
about? I'm not sure. All right, I'll just click on this is the pottery. Can people see that?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can see it's it's right at the bottom of the garden. So it's all sort of surrounded by trees, right? The neighbour's got massive trees. And people have to walk through the garden, so that's all part of it. I mean, it's sort of the fact that it's sort of nestled in nature, I think, helps it along. And I've got my 2 potter's wheels, and I've got all the shelving there that I got. Quite a lot of shelving I found someone had put outside their house, so that was nice and cheap.
And I love what you said about the sink.
Yeah, I've got a brilliant sink which was only 40 quid. So my plumbing system is a hose, and it's sort of drilled through the side of the cabin, attached to this sort of camping sink, and it works brilliantly. So it's like I've got a running tap even in there, and
it all goes into the bucket, doesn't it?
And then it all just goes through the plug hole into a bucket, and then I just keep moving the buckets and put them into the garden. So that's really great. And people love coming to throw. People sort of love learning to throw, and I'm sort of, and it will, because I have to look after my elderly mum who's got Alzheimer's. So I had to give up my learning support assistant job in order to sort of look after my mum who kept going in and out of hospital. And this works perfectly because I am working from home. So it fits in well with looking after an elderly mother who's got Alzheimer's as well. So that's quite handy. So yeah, mainly I have, so I've still got I can have 8 people in my cabin. Because of social distancing now, I've got 5. So it's lucky I got the cabin just before social distancing came in, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to. I use a visor and have everyone's allowed to use visors in my cabin if they want to. And it's really quite successful. So, and I'm inundated with people wanting to come. So I seem to have found something that fits in well with me. I think what I like to do is just, I'm reminded of when I was at art school and I was able to do whatever I wanted for sort of 3-4 years. I was allowed to, my art went down, whichever route I wanted it to go into. And the teachers were all very just saying, everything you're doing is great. Apart from my final show, which they said, no, sorry, you've messed it up now. We don't like your final show. But apart from that, they kept saying it was great. So basically that's what you do. When people come, they're all beginners. Everyone who comes is beginners, which is probably quite lucky for me. But they just tell me what they want to make and I help them make it. And we find pictures on Pinterest and we copy things that professional potters make. And my thing is that, we make what we want to make and we find a way of doing it. So, because it's a small class, you can do that. And yes, I've got this, and what everyone's ideas feeds off everyone else's. So if one person starts to do, well, I don't know, pots with noses, then basically lots of other people start doing pots with noses. I've discovered a new way of making pots that are shaped around balloons. It's the perfect mold, is a balloon, because you can just pop it at the end after you've wrapped your clay around it. So I've come up with quite a lot of innovative ways of making pots that are, this one's just wrapped around a balloon.
Oh, we can't see because you're share screening.
Oh, because of my share screen. Well, I changed back to, well, I just put it on, I might just
stop.
That's my private workshop day. I just show my gallery page. Will that work?
Yeah.
There you go. You've got lots of different things there. Does that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see, you know, everything's variety. Lots of different things. There's these balloon pots that are all shaped around balloons, like this one with the splash and the next door to a fish. And these two, can you see, if I put a pointer there, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where my hand is, both of those pots are balloon pots. They're made by spiral balloons, wrapping clay around a spiral balloon. And there's lots of what we call sprig molds, things that you push out of clay. Okay, so I'll stop now from the, how do I?
Can you see a button that says stop share? I think it's red at the top.
Oh, at the stop, it says stop share. There we go. Sorry, yeah, there we go. Right, yeah. So, but I've got ones that, yeah, like noses. I've got a few young people in my class now, and they're sort of doing funny pots with noses, which I think are great. And when people come to do hand building just for a sort of one-off session, because as well as doing the weekly classes, you know, I do private sort of workshops. And so when they do that, I've thought up this method where they use a mold and they use lots of texture. So you can see this one. And so everyone's pot ends up being very individual. They put lots of texture in. They use lots of stampers. And then I glaze it. So, and I think I'm quite a good throwing teacher. Everyone ends up being able to throw. I've only had one man who threw his clay down in disgust and said he wanted to have he wanted it to be a paperweight, not a pot. But apart from that, I've had an 80-year-old who threw a brilliant pot. And I've taught someone who did a ceramics degree. She just finished doing a ceramics degree at Central School of Art in London. And she never learnt to throw because they don't like to teach too many people to throw on the ceramics course because it costs too much. So I taught her to throw. So I think I give quite good value.
Has anybody got any questions for Lucy?
James? Oh, James, you've got to unmute yourself.
I hadn't really got a question, sorry. I just put my thumb up.
Oh, you put your thumb up.
Yeah.
Just put your thumb up.
No, it's fantastic, actually, what you're doing. That's good.
Same from me, Lucy. I'm really pleased. It's lovely.
Thank you.
It's quite amazing how you start off with something and you know, it just sort of works out. You just follow the latte hand, I suppose, don't you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, well, actually, I don't think, you know, my true talent is pottery. I've received to do creative writing, so I'm actually, you know, I'm trying to write a children's book at the moment. But hopefully that's just, I think it's probably another thing that's just along the way, you know. I think I definitely like to do different things, definitely like to do different things. And, you know, maybe I can use my cabin for something else later on. Who knows?